Okay, I'm Matt Schroder, General Manager of Infrastructure and Transport at the ACCC. I'd like to thank NatRoads for the opportunity to speak to you about landside charges that stevedores are imposing. Just to commence, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I'm situated, the Boonwurrung and Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Pay my respects to their culture, their continuing affinity with the land, and my respects to their elders past, present and future. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the ACCC's role and what we've seen. The ACCC basically has two responsibilities to do with stevedoring and landside charges. There's the general provisions of the Competition and Consumer Act around anti-competitive behaviour, that's cartels, collective pricing and the like. We don't, my area doesn't tend to look at that too much, but obviously the general provisions of the Act do apply for all industries in Australia. The main role that we do is a specific direction from the Minister to look at the prices, costs and profits of container stevedoring. In those, we have looked at the infrastructure charges. One of the limitations with that is that the specific direction is towards the container stevedores, and so we have concentrated on that small part of the supply chain, and that is a significant limitation in some ways. So we've been reporting for over 20 years on the stevedores after the waterfront reforms in the late 90s. Since that time, there's been new entrants into the market of stevedoring, Hutchinson in Sydney and Brisbane and VICT in Melbourne. We have seen that the service provided by the stevedores to the shipping lines has improved and crane rates have increased and the like, and there has been significant investment, so that's been good. We have also, though, recently expressed concern in our reports about the imposition and increase in the so-called infrastructure charges or other types of landside charges. Now, landside charges are levied at all the 5 mainland capital stevedoring ports that the ACCC looks at. We're not against landside charges per se. There does seem to be some justification for the imposition of charges where there are investments on the land side that assist trucking companies to do their business. And it seems reasonable that there would be some charges on the quay side to the shipping companies, as well as to the shipping lines, as well as to trucking companies on the land side. We are becoming, though, increasingly concerned about the structure of the market and the way that these charges are increasing. There have been significant changes in the market, which are potentially of some concern, and we've called those out in our annual reporting. I should mention that all of our annual reports with concerns about the landside charges are up on the ACCC's website. The entire reports are up there, the container stevedoring reports. We have seen a consolidation of shipping lines. According to UNCTAD, the UN Conference on Trade and Development, the 3 largest shipping alliances now control about 80% of the global market share. The concern with that is that with shipping lines increasing their power, the stevedores potentially have less ability to charge the shipping lines, and so therefore charging moves towards the parts of the supply chain who have less market power, and unfortunately for the members of NatRoad, that tends to be on the land side and the trucking firms. The trend for lower prices to the shipping lines has led to, and possibly because of this consolidation of shipping lines and an increase in their power, has led to a reduction in the profitability of the stevedores over a number of years. What we have seen, though, is an increase in the landside charges, and in the previous year, in our most recent report, which is on our website, there's been an increase in the profitability of the stevedores. So after a number of years of declining profitability, stevedoring profitability has increased, and to a significant extent, that has been on the back of the increasing landside charges. So I think that reflects the changes in relative market power. We have a limitation, though, in what we look at and concentrate on. As I mentioned, we have a direction to look at prices, costs, and profits of the stevedore. We can't see the entire supply chain, and so it looks like to us that shipping line consolidation has led to more market power of the shipping lines, which has led to lower quayside charges, which has then led to higher landside charges. As I said, that is concerning to the ACCC. While this isn't illegal, it is of concern in terms of the structure and what that means for the future of the industry. It appears that the charges on the land side are increasing because basically the trucking companies have no choice of what stevedore they pick up at or deliver to. And the cargo owners have limited choice because they're basically buying a bundled good, which is a combination of a shipping line and a stevedore. The shipping line's choosing the stevedore, and there's often complex arrangements between them on multiple ports and the like. And so I'm sure I don't have to tell the members of NatRoad this, but the increase of the landside charges in this way has the potential to lead to high transport costs across the supply chain, impacts on cash flow for, well, particularly smaller trucking businesses, and reduced productivity if those charges apply to higher productivity vehicles and the like, and they distort the decisions that are made away from optimal trucking decisions. The ACCC, as I mentioned, has called this out in our reports. We are discussing those with governments, the federal government, and with states and territories. We believe and have stated publicly that the impact of these charges should be scrutinised. But I do have to be clear that the ACCC does not have the power to set these charges. Ports are regulated by the states. And so it would be ultimately for the states to decide what they want to do about these charges. The other thing that I mentioned was that we don't have the full picture of the supply chain. So it is possible that the reductions in shipping costs, the reduction in the shipping lines and on the sea, and the reduction in the quayside charges more than offsets the increase in the landside charges. And so therefore, in the entire supply chain from the producer overseas to the final consumer, or alternatively from the producer in Australia for an export good to their final export market, may have gone down, may have been around stable, or may have gone up, but we don't have that larger picture. So I think what needs to happen going forward is that there is a study that looks at that wider chain to see what the impacts there have been. I think the moves by several states that have been mentioned publicly about giving more time for the consideration of infrastructure charge increases and more scrutiny is very welcome. I understand the National Transport Commission is looking at voluntary guidelines around the infrastructure charges, landside charges. They used to be called infrastructure charges for some of the companies, but overall the landside charges, and that includes side loader charges, long vehicle charges, as well as other charges levied on the land side. I think ultimately, this is a significant issue. As an island nation, most of the value that comes into our country goes through the container stevedores, and this issue does have the potential to damage businesses and to damage Australia's overall economic efficiency and standard of living. So I do think that they are very important issues that need to be addressed. But I think, the ACCC would be happy to work with the states and territories on looking at the impact of these charges, and we will continue to call these out in our annual stevedoring reports. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you everyone who watched this webinar. If you have any questions on landside port charges, you can email info@natroad.com.au. This webinar will be uploaded to our website and our YouTube channel. So once again, thank you, Matthew, and have a great day.
Thank you.